There are actually three terms that need to be defined here: overtures, preludes, and prologues. An overture is usually an introductory instrumental that plays before curtain rise, which contains themes from the work that it is meant to introduce, most of the time in a medley-like form. A prelude is an introductory instrumental as well, but it doesn't necessarily have to showcase themes from what it precedes. If it does, it's usually more to set a mood or tell a vague backstory. A prologue is actually a literary term for a story before the story proper, before chapter 1 in a book, for example, or before act 1 in a play or a film, much like an epilogue is the story after the story. Idiosyncratic exceptions aside, of these three, only the prologue inherently involves text or images. Now here's where things get tricky. The beginning of Majora, preceding Act 1, contains both music that plays before and after curtain rise. The first being an instrumental, and the second a recitative. At first sight, the instrumental would be for all intents and purposes an overture, because it contains themes that appear later in the opera, much like a medley, except not as clear-cut. But this overture is also a story told by the orchestra, so it would qualify as a prologue since it tells a story before the story. However, because it is an instrumental, the exact nature of the story is not totally clear. Also, some themes presented there never reappear in the same form, which lends it an introductory character beyond the simple idea of an overture or medley, warranting it the title of prelude. The thing is, separating this prelude that plays before curtain rise from the recitative that comes after seems unnecessary, being that they are both already so short. So once we consider that, firstly, the structure that encompasses both this prelude and the following recitative is the story before the story. Secondly, that the prelude flows seamlessly into the recitative. And thirdly, that unlike recitatives, overtures and preludes have no text. It becomes simpler to make them a single macro section that we decided to call a prologue. It is the shortest macro section of the opera, the other three being, well, Acts 1, 2, and 3. Yes. The instrumentation in Majora's aria is actually outdated by now. Some of the sounds you hear are not possible, and we took measures to correct that. What are pizzicati with glissandi in the violas along with sliding harp notes in the demo will be replaced with the entirely appropriate Chinese opera gongs, which are what the original soundtrack was emulating all along. Due to their thinness, the pitch of these gongs bends more the harder you hit them. Amidst the chaos of Majora's aria, the discrete bends of violas and harps being plucked would never pierce through. As for the rest, much like with the previous example, it's a matter of orchestration and practice. You associate sounds to instruments, and you reproduce the timbres you want with the instruments you know. If there's an area of composition where I will insist for exactly what I want, it's orchestration. Everything else tends to be somewhat negotiable. It's a theme that plays during the end credits, when they get married, a scene you only witness if you have the couple's mask. It has more than one origin, but it ended up being a strong reference to a conducting gesture from the 19th century for a 4x4 bar. Down, left, right, and up. You might wonder then why it's reversed, to which I will respond that it's what you see from the point of view of the orchestra, where the conductor's left is their right, and vice versa.